Greetings everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Rob of RGG and this is another episode of A Look at the Book. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Dungeon Alphabet Expanded Third Printing from Goodman Games. Goodman Games, if you're unfamiliar, are the publishers of Dungeon Crawl Classics, along with Mutant Crawl Classics. They produce stuff for 5th edition D&D. They also produce system agnostic stuff, which is what we're going to be looking at today, and that is the Dungeon Alphabet. Now this is, if you follow Rob's game group on Facebook, which the link is in the description of the video, you would have seen last week that I posted this massive haul of a gaming collection that I got in from a friend of mine, and this book was in it. Now, I'll admit I knew what the rule books were and the adventures and things like that were in the massive collection I got, but I didn't know what everything was. Some of it was just in the collection, and I wasn't familiar with it at the time. And I believe it was Christopher Rush, one of our viewers on here, one of my friends on Facebook, that pointed out what a useful tool the Dungeon Alphabet is. So I took it out and I took a closer look at it, and I actually ended up using it in my Friday night white box game because it is a book that is usable with any fantasy RPG. It's not specifically tied to D&D or Dungeon Crawl Classics or anything like that. Just whatever fantasy game you're playing, you can use this with it. From the back of the book it says, "The Dungeon Alphabet Expanded Third Printing, an A to Z reference for classic dungeon design. Designing dungeons is as easy as ABC. The Dungeon Alphabet compiles inspirational tables on classic dungeon design elements to assist the game master in creating subterranean challenges. This third printing adds 8 new topics to the existing 26 for 34 tables of inspirational materials. A is for altar, B is for books, C is for caves. The Dungeon Alphabet has advice, hints, and randomized tables that bring new life to your adventures. The entries are accompanied by outstanding art from classic fantasy illustrations and are compatible with all fantasy role-playing games by Goodman Games." So this book is not super thick. It weighs in at about 62, 63 pages. Hardbound, and don't bother looking for it on Amazon, at least here in the US. The Amazon prices are stupid, ridiculous high, but you can get it off of Goodman Games website for $19.99. So if you watch this video and decide this is a book that you want to add to your collection, I advise just going to Goodman Games website and ordering it directly from them. You might be able to find it on eBay too. I haven't looked there, but it's got, some people love the DCC art style and some people don't. I happen to love it because it fits that old school feeling of art from D&D of years past. And a lot of it's kind of cheesy, but I really enjoy it. And for those who do, there is tons of it in here. It's very well made. Like I said, it's only 62 pages, but it is a nice hardbound book that seems to hold up really well. They've done a couple of these styles. I think they actually did a Kickstarter for a 4th edition printing of this, but I don't have it. I have a 3rd edition. And it really is usable with any fantasy RPG. I was really pleased with it. And like I said, I used it Friday night, in my white box game. And it was very useful for creating the altar in the, there was a sunken temple that they were in. And they went into this altar room. And I used the altar charts out of here for creating the altar. But we're going to switch views in a moment. And I'm not going to go over every little page that's in the book. I'm going to hit some highlights and show you what kind of stuff is in there, and hopefully give you a good look at what is in the book so that if you decide it's something you want to add to your collection, you can. Without any further ado, let's take a look at the book. So here we have it. This is the Dungeon Alphabet. Like I said, hardback book. 62 pages, I believe. Open it up. You can see what I'm talking about with the old school art. There's some cool black and white line art here. And they have the same thing on the back cover, but it's a different picture. So very cool old school inspired art. And then we open it up. It has a table of contents. And it has a foreword by David Zeb Cook and an introduction by Michael Curtis talking about the design of the book. Introduction to the third printing. Some more cool old school art. This poor dude right here is about to have some bad stuff happen to him. So what is the A to Z? The A to Z is where it takes each letter of the alphabet and they tie it to something that you would find in the dungeon and give you charts that you can use on how to use it. Like this one, for example, it tells you how to use the table, which is pretty self-explanatory, but A is for altars. So you roll a d20 and you have all these different types of altars, like white alabaster altar, plain stone stained with blood, rusted iron covered in gold leaf, constructed of bones, just a bunch of different kinds. And then you roll D3 times on the chart here to find out about the things that are on the altar. It could be twin braziers, could be it's covered in an altar cloth, could be chains attached for securing sacrificial victims. And you do that D3 times to add some flair to your altar. I did one the other night. It was an altar of pulsating flesh and had a flesh gong. And I'm just like, well, what would a flesh gong sound like? Just, I don't know, somebody stirring macaroni, I suppose. But then they've also added in, like, A is also for adventurers. And you have all these different adventuring parties or adventurers that you could run into in a dungeon. Like this one I thought was really fun. Dressed in armor and clothing long out of date and seemingly confused about the state of the dungeon. This party entered the dungeon decades or even centuries ago, but encountered a temporal stasis trap that placed them in a state of suspended hibernation. Recently released after the magical trap finally failed, the party has no idea how much time has elapsed or why the dungeon has changed, at least to them anyway. They may possess useful information about the dungeon riches and hazards, but this knowledge is also wildly out of date. For example, a novice sorcerer they once sought to defeat could now be a powerful lich. And these are just cool things you can add into your dungeons. B is for books. And you have all kind of stuff bound in rare materials, books that are enchanted. It just gives you all these different descriptions that you can use to, obviously this is for books that they find that are intended to be some type of treasure, not just books that are, decorative, because those books that don't mean anything, they could just, fall apart as soon as you touch them. But if you want to throw some extra spells in there that your spellcaster can get their hands on, this is a good chart for describing the book to do that. Then you have 100 book titles, which is really cool. B is also for battles. And then you have 20 unforeseen developments during a battle. So, I mean, that can spice things up there too. C is for caves. D is for doors. I said I wasn't going to go through all these, but I think I'm going to go through most of them. E is for echoes. And each one of these has charts that goes along with it so that you can either roll or choose something that you think is cool. F is for fungi. G is for gold. H is for hallways. It's always nice to be able to describe your hallways or rooms in a dungeon as more than just a oh, it's another 10 by 10 room or 15 by 10 room or whatever. It's nice to have descriptions for it. I is for inscriptions, weird things they can find written on the walls. J being for jewels, and that's more cool old art there. New old art. K is for kobolds. L is for levers. Got to be careful what you pull there. M is for magic and the weird stuff you can find with that, like odd magical devices found in a dungeon. M is also for maps. And here are 12 unusual maps found in a dungeon. N is for no stone left unturned. And it's for searching and finding things, like 20 random places to hide things in a dungeon. O is for oozes. P is for pools. P is also for potions. And I just love these charts and all these cool things that come with it. Let's see. Yeah, you've got stuff like, potions that affect multiple creatures when consumed, mildly poisonous stuff. Q is for questions. Let's see. R is for rooms. And then this is like your different chambers and stuff inside the dungeon. How you can choose or roll things for descriptions of the rooms or things to be in the rooms. And then you have a random and original purpose rooms and chambers that you can roll up. And you can basically roll an entire dungeon off of charts like this. R is also for relics that they could find. Here's 30 random relics from previous adventurers. S is for statues. Which is always fun because I swear my parties, every time there's a statue in a room, they just expect it to come to life. S is also for stairs. What else we got? T is for traps. There's a list of different traps here. Love this picture. This dude just wanted that coin too badly because that's where he met his end. T is also for treasure chest. And you've got 23 rare and unusual treasure chest. U is for undead. V is for vermin. W is for weird, and it's just, perplexing things and events of a weird nature. X is for xenophobia. Y is for yellow, and yes, it does touch on Lovecraft and the King in Yellow in these charts. And Z is for Zowie, which is more weird and wild stuff that can happen in the dungeon. I think they were kind of pushing it on that one. But, there's only so many things they could use for that. And then we come to the end of the book with the other art piece that I showed before. And the back of it, I already read to you. But yeah, for $19.99, I think this is a steal. But that is our look at the book. So, as you can see, the Dungeon Alphabet has a lot to offer. A lot of really cool charts. Like I said, you can use this as players are traversing a dungeon with their characters, and you can roll randomly to create rooms and things in the rooms, and all kinds of cool encounters that they can run into in a dungeon. Or you can go through when you're designing your own adventure, and you can use these charts as inspiration to just pick the things you want off of there. And as any of us who have written any number of adventures knows, it can get kind of stale sometimes because, our imaginations aren't really flowing. We're writing stuff on, oh yeah, you went into a room, there's, in this room there's an altar, or there's it's a ruined library and there's books and this, that, and the other, and you just kind of describe it and hand wave it. But with this, you can really add a lot of flash and flair to your dungeon and make it very memorable. And I think for $20, this is a steal. And it doesn't matter to me whether I was running DCC, White Box, Basic Fantasy, or if I was to ever play D&D again. I think this is a staple as a dungeon master, game master, that I would have at the table at every game. It's just that useful, in my opinion. Now, Goodman Games, being the awesome producers they are of some really great books, have also put out another alphabet book. And there's some third-party ones too, and I have one of those. But these are specifically by Goodman Games. And I'm just going to touch on this one for a minute because it deserves its own video. But they also put out the Cthulhu Alphabet, which is the same premise as the Dungeon Alphabet, albeit it weighs in a little heavier at like 109 pages. But same art style stuff. This is all dealing with Lovecraft and Cthulhu stuff, and would be useful in fantasy games or in Eldritch Tales or Call of Cthulhu, any kind of modern horror game that you wanted to add some Lovecraftian stuff to. Now this one comes in also hardback at $24.99, and I haven't looked it up on Amazon or eBay or anything like that. That's just straight from Goodman Games. So I will be doing a video on this one because I just fell so in love with this Dungeon Alphabet. Thank you, Christopher Rush, for pointing it out to me as one that because I got so much in this collection that it's going to take a long time to go through everything, and I may not have jumped to these right away had he not mentioned them. But I did jump on it after he said something and started looking at them, and I think they're fantastic. And if you are a dungeon master or a game master who is writing your own adventures, or you just want to add some flash to a module or a funnel or something that you're running, these are great books to use for that kind of stuff. So there you have it. I hope that you found this video informative and useful. If you did, do the YouTube thing and like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. In the description, if you want to help support the channel, you can see my Amazon wishlist link and have stuff sent to me for review. My faith-based channel link is in there, and also the link to Rob's Game Group on Facebook. Our page on there, but it's Rob's Game Group page. And if you go on there and join us, you can message me directly if you have questions about stuff or ideas for videos that you'd like to see, and I will try to work all that stuff in whenever I can. Until next time, my friends, good gaming and good luck.